Okay, now chapter 10, on to chapter 10, final chapter. This whole chapter is about applying logical test-taking strategies to make the grade. So if you look on page 236, it starts out, I'm just reading, testing is a fact of student life, even though many students do not look forward to taking tests, but we know it's all part of what you're trying to do at this point, test every time you turn around. Second paragraph there, under that picture, it starts out with, as you will see in this chapter, start highlighting. Test-taking involves more than showing up on time with a pencil in hand. It is about preparation, endurance, and strategy. It is also about conquering fears, paying attention to details, and learning from mistakes. So most of the time I tell students the very first exam in any class usually doesn't fare very well because you're getting acquainted with how that particular teacher notes as the notes pertain to the test and so on. So the first one kind of gives you a platform to practice, but from there you should kind of get into a flow of figuring out what that teacher is wanting. On page 237 under Choose Study Materials, we're going to be hopping around here. So you're going to stay with me, and I'll try to go slow. You can always stop the video and rewind if you need to catch this. Choose Study Materials. Highlight the word study. All right, study, equal marks above it, and I use my pencil to write, to focus one's attention on a subject for the purpose of learning all one can about the subject. Study is to focus one's attention on a subject for the purpose of learning all one can about the subject. Study. To focus one's attention on a subject for the purpose of learning all one can about the subject. Alright, if you need to stop the video, stop it and rewind that part till you get it. Alright, to the left I wrote 3 logical test-taking strategies. 3 logical test-taking strategies. Alright, to try to keep you from having to write so much, stay right with me, rewind if you need to in order to get these 3 logical test-taking strategies. Alright, underneath Choose Study Materials, start highlighting. Identified as much as you can about the subject matter of the test, choose the materials that contain the information you need to study. That is the first logical test-taking strategy. So I highlighted that and then put a 1 above it. Alright, the second one is the very next sentence. Go through your notes, your text, any primary source materials that were assigned, and any handouts from your instructor, from your instructor. That's number 2. Alright, the third one is underneath set a study schedule, right underneath that, and highlight use your time management skills to set a schedule that will help you feel as prepared as you can be. That's number 3. That's the third logical test-taking strategy. Once again, the first 2 are under Choose Study Materials. Number 1 is identified as much as you can about the subject matter of the test. Choose the materials that contain the information you need to study. Number 2 was go through your notes, your text, any primary source materials that was assigned, and any handouts from your instructor. And then number 3 fell under Set a Study Schedule. Use your time management skills to set a schedule that will help you feel as prepared as you can be. Those are the 3 logical test-taking strategies. Now, in that same area, I went ahead and wrote the word cramming, C-R-A-M-M-I-N-G, cramming. It means quickly skimming material in the hope of memorizing enough to pass a test. Cramming. I know you ought to know anything about cramming. You've never done it in your life, but it probably is going to shock you that some of your friends regularly do it. It is not. Should not be a practice technique. It does not work. So I know it's a surprise to you, but people do cram and try to get the information they need. So cramming means quickly skimming material in the hope of memorizing enough to pass a test. Don't try it unless you just have to. All right, we head on through. On page 238, take a pretest, highlight the word pretest. Here's your definition. You'll need your pencil. I wrote it right beside of it. Administered to estimate a student's knowledge level prior to instruction. Administered to estimate a student's knowledge level prior to instruction. Administered to estimate a student's knowledge level prior to instruction, before instruction begins. You had a pre-test in here. I'm not sure you remember, but you did take one, and that way I knew what knowledge you already knew, excuse me, and what knowledge you still needed to know. I knew what to focus on. Administered to estimate a student's knowledge level prior to instruction. Now I'm going to try to keep you from having to write a whole lot. So in that same area, I put post-test. You have a pre-test and you have a post-test. You'll be taking a post-test in here in just a few days, just so I can see how much you've progressed. Plus Walter State can see, am I doing what I need to do as your instructor to get you prepared. Post-test, it's the same definition, administered to estimate a student's knowledge, but the last two words should say after instruction. Administered to estimate a student's knowledge after instruction. Post-test, after instruction. So I could see some growth from the first time I gave it to you, the instruction comes, and then by the post-test, I should see how you've learned the material. All right? Then prepare physically. We have finals coming up. You need to be preparing yourself, not just with the academic knowledge that you need, but also physical-wise. You need bed. You need to go to bed and get plenty of rest. Research says 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night regenerates the brain and the memory. Anything less than that, you're not fully letting your mind rest, which means you won't be as sharp the next day. So please plan on getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I know I have teenagers in this house. That would be so nerdy and old-fashioned to sleep 7 or 9 hours, but you will find that you have better success. Right beside of that, I wrote the word preparation. Preparation, that's the vocabulary. The definition is the act of getting ready for an event or challenge. The act of getting ready for an event or challenge. The act of getting ready for an event or challenge. If you need to stop the video to get that down or rewind, feel free to. You're not bothering me. Okay, so prepare physically. The only other part I want to talk about there is the second paragraph under that about eating right. I know you're so used to soft drinks and a lot of sugar-ridden snacks and stuff, but on test day, your best bet is a more balanced meal. Not too much food where you get sleepy, but enough to keep your blood sugar levels leveled off. I remember in college I was going to take a final for a history class, and I wasn't doing very well, so I stayed up all night to study so I could be ready for the final. When I got there the next morning, I don't know whether you've ever been so sleepy that it's almost like your side vision's gone. It's just a very tunnel vision type thing. I was so tired, so I went down and got me a Mountain Dew and a Butterfinger, my favorite kind of candy bar. Can you imagine me on a Butterfinger and Mountain Dew? But anyway, I got a high for about a half hour, but then research says about a half hour, you hit rock bottom, your sugar level hits bottom. So try to eat snacks that are healthy, at least during final exam. I would prefer always. All right, conquering test anxiety, highlight test anxiety. Skip down to the third line, which is in the second sentence, and start highlighting. A feeling of near panic known as test anxiety, described as a bad case of nerves that makes it hard to think or remember. Test anxiety can make your life as a student miserable and can affect how well you do on test. When anxiety blocks performance, you need to take steps to control it. Keep highlighting. Avoid cramming. Prepare so you'll feel in control. Put the test in perspective. Is it 1 out of 4? Is it 1 out of 3? If I fail the first one, is it weighted heavy enough that it's going to be a detriment in the whole class? Make a study plan, question, answer, and drill yourself. Do not assume that anything less than perfection equals failure. Just because you don't get an A doesn't mean that you didn't do well. And then practice relaxation. Be able to do those. I had a student in this very class several semesters ago who had probably the worst case test anxiety I've ever seen. She actually got sick in the 8 o'clock class. I was handing out the test, and it was on a paper test with a Scantron, where you bubble your answers in, color your answers in on the bubble sheet, and pass those out. And the minute I passed it out, she got up, went to the trash can, and threw up at 8 o'clock. She said, I'm going to need to see you. Went out in the hall, went out. She had these big red splotches all over her neck and her face. And And she said, I can't touch that Scantron. It makes me sick. And big old sweat drops falling off. So I went in and got the Scantron sheet, threw it in the trash can. So you don't have to, just write on the test. Will that be better if you just write on the, yeah, I think I can write on the test. Her handwriting looked like a kindergartner's handwriting. She was jerking so bad and so nervous. Every test after that, I did not hand her a Scantron sheet. So that's just something we decided not to do. All right, on page 241, I already given you that one. On page 243, use critical thinking and avoid errors. Start highlighting when the pressure of the test makes you nervous. Critical thinking can help you work through each question thoroughly and avoid errors. Some critical thinking strategies to use during a test. You've highlighted that. Now highlight recall facts, procedures, rules, and formulas. Highlight the next one. Think about similarities. Highlight notice differences. And then skip to and highlight the next one. Support ideas with examples. All right, think about thinking ahead. 245 and 246 will be due test day, which is Wednesday. So make sure you've got that one ready. It's 8, 9, and 10. How can you master different types of tests? The second paragraph on page 247, start highlighting. For objective questions, you choose or write a short answer you believe is correct after making a selection from a limited number of choices. Multiple choice, fill in the blank, and true-false questions fall into this category. Keep